Alright guys, so today we are finishing worksheet, is this 6B? Do I have the right number? Okay, and then we're going to go on and talk about worksheet 8A. So quick review using number 4, part E, because we didn't get to it on Friday. The vertex is 2, 5, so remember we start with vertex form. Let me write it up here. Ax minus h squared plus k. And we put in the 2 and the 5. So we have x minus 2 squared plus 5. Then what do we do to find the stretch? Do you remember? You can do this all year long and all kinds of different polynomial functions, trig functions, conic sections. We're going to put in this other point that we know in as an x and a y and solve for a. So we will have 6 equals a, 4 minus 2 quantity squared plus 5. Do you know what everybody does wrong? They want to type this in all together. Can I do 4 minus 2 is 2, squared is 4, plus 5 is 9? Anybody know why I can't do that? Okay, you're making me nervous here. Nobody knows why I can't. Okay. Thank you, Brandon. Oh dear, now what did I do? Okay. This part right here is multiplied by a. So you could definitely subtract the 5 over here and get a 1. But then 4 minus 2 is 2, squared is 4. So this is actually a 4a, or a times 4. So be real careful that you don't try to combine all that, because part of it is multiplied by a. So I get a is what? 1/4. So the formula, or the equation, I'm sorry, we're looking for is 1/4. Yep, that's not a 4 half power. 1/4 x minus 2 quantity squared plus 5. Does that feel better? Like you kind of remember now what we did on Friday? All right, the rest of this worksheet is what I like to call a throw-up problem. We're given the formula here, and eventually we're going to talk about it as being the height of an object in terms of time is given by, as long as our information is in feet per second, we will use a gravity coefficient of -16 t squared plus v sub 0 times t plus h sub 0. Where this is the initial velocity, and this is the initial height. Now, for most of the problems that you're going to have, it's going to give you the equation to start out with, okay? This says from the top of a building, a toy rocket is shot upward with an initial velocity of 132 feet per second. That's why that number is in front of t here. The formula below gives the height of the rocket above the ground at time t. Assume that t equals 0 when the rocket left its launch pad, where h is height and t is time in seconds. Think about how to solve algebraically, and then we're going to solve graphically. Okay? How tall is the building? Can anybody tell me how we could find that? Put a 0 in for what? Yes, if we put a t equals 0 in, -16 times 0 squared plus 132 times 0 means the building is how tall? 60 feet. So when we go to sketch this, it's going to start at 60 feet, and it's going to go up and come down. Now, it's going to graph as a parabola, but we don't care about negative time, right? We care about it starting at 60 feet here. So when we go to choose a window, our time across the bottom is going to be 0 to something. We need to figure out how long till it comes down. Part B says, how high above the ground was the rocket at 3 seconds? So we could just put in a 3 into the equation, or if we graph it, we can trace until we find where it is at 3. Let's go ahead and put in the equation y equals negative 16x squared plus 132x plus 60 into our y equals. Unfortunately, I don't have my calculator app even open yet. Oh dear. Way too much stuff open here, Hofbauer. All right, did you get it typed in? So y equals up here in the corner, negative 16x, make sure you're using the x next to the alpha there, squared, was it plus 132x plus 60 or 90? Thank you. I don't remember. All right, everybody got it in? All right, now we need to choose an appropriate window. I'm going to go to window. What did we say the x is representing? Time. So we need 0 to something. Do you think it's going to come down to the ground by 10? Maybe? I'm just going to leave it and try. What about height? Okay, it starts above 60 and it's going up. So the maximum needs to be pretty tall. I don't know. What did you try? 400, 500? I have no idea. Ooh, mine's looking pretty good. So I have 0 to 10. The scale is how it's counting by tick marks. So it's going to put 10 tick marks in there. The y min is the height. Now, there's no reason to have negative height. But at the same time, if I put 0 there, it kind of cuts off the bottom of my screen. So I usually leave a little bit of negative. And I went 400. Now, if I had to count from negative 10 to 400, I'd probably count by 50s or something. So if you wanted to put a scale of 50, you could. I don't usually bother to mess with the scale. Okay, but do you see if I'm counting by 50s, this is starting a little bit above 50. Everybody getting it to graph? Anybody need help? This is the crux of the lesson today. So, Martin, do you have a graphing calculator? We're doing a lesson on graphing calculator. Okay, so how would we find its height at 3 seconds? Couple options. We can go do it in the home screen and put a 3 in. But since we've graphed it, I like just go trace 3, and that'll tell me where it was at 3. I could also choose second calculate, second trace, and say find the value at 3. I could also go to the table and scroll down to 3. Did you get 312 no matter which way you did it? Anybody need help? I really need everybody to be doing this, so let me know if you're stuck. Okay. What's the next thing it asks, guys? Okay. So can you just put in an 8 for me? This was 312 feet. At t equals 8, you can trace or you can use the table. Anybody getting a number? Oh. So I'm guessing it was on the way back down. If you trace along, it's over here somewhere. On its way back down. Okay. This is feet. At what time did the rocket hit the ground? All right. Now, algebraically, how could we solve that? Nice. We would solve 0 equals negative 16t squared plus 132t plus 60. Now, you could at least pull a 2 out, maybe a 4, maybe even a, no, I think a 4 might be. But is anybody real excited about solving that? By factoring or graphing either one? I mean, by factoring or quadratic formula? No, if we're okay with just an estimate, we can go to the calculator and we want to find out what time the y value hits 0. So if I trace along, I can get an estimate, but it's not going to be super accurate. That's where we're going. Okay, did anybody get around 8.6 or 7 seconds or something? Still a foot above the ground right here. All right, so you guys have used the 0 before, I hope. If we go second trace, we are trying to calculate where the height is 0, so that's number 2. Now, because I scrolled over here, I can easily pick a left and right bound. I know it is somewhere between what two numbers, guys? Yeah, 8 and 9 maybe? So my left bound, I could say 8 seconds. My right, and then enter. My right bound, I could say 9 seconds. Enter. My guess really doesn't matter as long as I'm close enough. So I got 8.68 seconds. Now, you can also use left and right cursoring around to find the bounds. I just really like typing better. If I had chosen choice 2 and I scrolled to near where it is, then you would say, well, I want to left a couple times and hit enter because it says left bound. It's giving me hints here. I need to go right until I have crossed the y-axis and then hit enter for the right bound, and it's going to find it somewhere in between those. Now, the calculator does what's called repeated iterations to figure out whether it's 0 or not. So, did anybody get, instead of y equals 0, did you get some funky thing in scientific notation? Nobody? Yes? Okay. Sometimes you'll get like 9.8 times 10 to the negative 15th or something. Okay, that's really 0. I don't know that I can make it do it on this one. We'll just watch for it. It'll show up eventually. All right, what's next? Was this 8.68? Is that what I remember? Seconds. Okay. What time did it reach its maximum height? Ooh, anybody know how I would do that algebraically? What is the maximum called? Vertex. Do I want the x or the y at the vertex? At what time? I want the x. The next one is the y. So this is the x, and this is the y. So how could we find the x at the vertex algebraically? Negative b over 2a, and then we'd plug it back in to find the y. But if we want to use the calculator and solve by graphing, what are we looking for up here? It's not called a vertex. It's called what? Yes, so second trace, and it is the maximum because it's opening down. Now, you don't have to get very close. Like, I know this is somewhere between 0 and 10 seconds, and it'll find a maximum. Okay? You could also say it looks to me like it's somewhere between 2 and 6. So for my left bound, I'm just going to put 2. My right bound, I'm going to put like 6. Enter. And you should get 2 lines and say it's somewhere in between those. Then when I hit enter twice, because I really don't care about a guess, I got at time 4.125. 4.12. Okay. And the maximum height is this 332 number, right? So we just found both of those answers at the same time. Someone refresh my memory because it went away for me. This was 330. Okay. And the X value, guys? Okay. I think it was 12499 on mine, so 12 I would even take. I'm not going to be that picky. All right. At what time does the rocket exactly 300 feet above the ground? This is one you may not have done a lot of last year. How do you figure out where it hits exactly 300? I hope everybody's paying attention. Okay, so how are we going to do that? Okay, so algebraically you could set it equal to 300. Good. But what are we going to do if we want to cheat and use the calculator? Nice. Go back to y equals, put in 300 in a different equation, and then we want to find out where it intersects. So it intersects twice. From this time until this time, it was above 300 feet. Or did it ask for exactly, guys? I can't remember. It did say exactly? Okay. So when we have two things graphed, we want to find the what? The intersection, which is choice 5. Intersect is always my favorite thing to use because you don't have to get very close to make it work. Okay? So I'm going to go intersection, choice 5. I only have two things graphed, so I'm going to hit enter, 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 and it's going to find one of them at 5.54. And then if I go second trace, intersect, this time I know it's over on this one, so maybe I could guess a 2 or something. I'm going to go enter, enter, and then just type a 2 so that it jumps over there. Or you could scroll over there and hit your enter, enter near there. Make sure it does not say guess any longer down here, though. If you write down your guess, that's not going to be correct. Okay, so it needs to say intersection, and it calculated to be 2.71. All right, guys, I'm going to need some help here. First of all, we could have set 300 equal to negative 16t squared plus 132t plus 60 to solve this algebraically. At what times was it exactly? I can't remember either one of the times. Anybody have them? We put in y equals 300 and used intersect. One more time, Destiny, thanks. Okay. I don't know if anybody remembers, but this was definitely a pretest question. Okay. Something like this was on the pretest. And I have to tell you that part of the grade is giving me an accurate window. I don't want to see a zoom fit window because this situation calls for non-negative x and y values. So roughly 0 to 400 for the y. If you had negative a little bit, that's fine. And did we do 0 to 10 for the x, I think? Okay. So coming up with a window that fits the application problem is part of that. So now for that, you will go back and do numbers 15 and 17 on the back of worksheet 7, okay? 7B, 15, and 17. Now we're going to practice a little more of this kind of stuff on worksheet 8. So at the top of worksheet 8, it says you can solve a plain old equation by what's called the intersect method. Notice this equation has only x values in it. So if I want to solve that without doing any algebra, as long as it doesn't ask for an exact solution with radicals or something, I can solve it by graphing into y1, the x minus 2, the left-hand side, and then into y2, negative 1 divided by 2 x squared plus 2. Is that what that says, guys? My bifocals. And then we're just going to figure out where they intersect. Again, I don't think a zoom fit is going to be your best answer. One was x plus 2 or x minus 2. And then the other one was negative 1/2, and you could put that in parentheses. It actually doesn't have to be. Times x squared. That one was plus 2? Okay. I'm going to do a standard window to start with, which is just zoom 6. It's negative 10 to 10. Ooh, that turned out pretty well, right? Somebody getting this? Anybody have a question? So here's my sketch, because I can cheat that way. And then we need to find those intersection points. Why does this blank only say x equals? Why do we not want ordered pairs where they intersect? This is what we started with, guys. Did this have a y anywhere in it? No. We are just solving an equation that only has x's. So when you solve this, you have to give me only the x values. The y value would be what you would get on each side where they are equal. So I'm going to go to intersect, choice 5. I'm just going to go enter, enter, enter the first time, and I get 2, 0. Then I'm going to go second trace, intersect again. But this time I'm going to scroll over here closer to this one. Go enter, enter, enter. And I got 4, negative 6. Anybody get those two? Okay, what do we write down though? Negative 4 and positive 2, only the x values. I got to tell you, I think that would have been faster to almost to solve algebraically, but all right. I'm going to skip this one. Can anybody tell me about this one? Just picture this. Anybody tell me about this guy? What shape is this? It's a parabola? What's that -4 telling you? Nope, because it's not inside on the x. So it's down. If it had been x minus 4, then it would have been to the right. Okay. So this one is down here. What's the other one doing, guys? I'm worst drawing ever. The other one is a parabola that opens down that starts up here at 4. Yeah, well, I think they cross at -2 and +2 if you graph them much more accurately than I did. But I'm going to just move on. Number 3 is a different method. It says if you have them all already equal to 0, or if you can make it equal to 0, then you are finding the zeros instead of using the intersection of 2 separate graphs. Honestly, not a big fan of this, but we do have to find zeros all the time on graphs. I'll show you my little cheat in a minute. So for now, I'm going to clean out these old equations. Oh, I think I'm going to do purple. I'm going to go down here. But you can pick any one you want and type in 7x squared plus 7x minus 15. As long as it is okay with decimal answers, there's no reason not to do it by graphing, and this one even says to. 7x squared, was it minus 7x? Plus 7x, and then minus 15. Thank you. All right, again, I have a standard window. Now, this is not a super great window for this parabola, depending what I'm asking you for. Anybody know how we could get a little better picture of this parabola? If we want to look and see the vertex, we'd need more what? Yeah, we need more negative y values, so scroll down here to maybe like negative 20 or something. Now, I also don't need as much what? X. Yeah, I could, if I wanted, stretch it and just put like negative 5 to 5, and it doesn't matter. Okay, you can leave it as the original one if you want, because we could see the zeros. That's what we're trying to find here. All right, now, I hate scrolling on these graphs because either there's a lag in my program and it takes forever to scroll, or because it's just not very accurate when you do it this way. What is this number right here, guys? The other thing is sometimes you lose your cursor. Anybody ever scroll off the screen and then you can't figure out where you are? This looks like it's about negative 2. So it's okay to say I want to find a 0, second trace number 2, and it's somewhere around negative 2. So what numbers are to the left of negative 2? So I'm just going to type in a left bound of negative 3, enter. What is to the right of there, clearly? Negative 1 or even 0 would work. And I'm going to type in a right bound. Now it gave me 2 little lines, or at least 2 arrows at the top, depending how old your calculator is. And it's somewhere in between those that it's looking. If you hit enter again here you may not get an exact 0 for the y. All right, it is using repeated iterations, smaller and smaller, to get it as accurate as it can. Negative 2.047, maybe if we rounded to 3. All right, there's one more 0. So what do you want me to type this time? Second trace, somewhere between what and what? So I'm trying to find the 0. To the left of that is 0. And to the right, 2 seems pretty good. So it's somewhere in between those two. It's a little hard to see up there at the top. Enter. I don't really care about a guess, but make sure it says 0 here, not guess. So I got 1.046886. Could I have solved that and gotten an accurate, exact answer? Quadratic formula. Okay? With some ugly radicals probably. But be real careful when you're writing this down again. We're not writing a y value or an ordered pair, it's just the x. One was negative 2.047. I can't see the other one. What was the other one, guys? Okay, that's fine. Question 4, it says make it equal to 0 first and then graph and find all the zeros. Or you could do intersect method. I really don't care. I'd rather move on and talk about number 5 and have a little bit of time because we need to review. What's tomorrow? Does anybody remember? Tomorrow's Wednesday, so what do we have? The retake on complex numbers. Did everybody pick up the little review sheet on the way in? Okay, so let's do this quick number 5 and then I'll go over a question or two on the review sheet. Does that sound like a plan? If an object is dropped from a height of 96 feet, okay, so it has no initial velocity. It was just dropped. So it says the height is negative 16t squared plus 96, because the initial height of 96. After it's fallen, how long does it take for the object to hit the ground? Okay, they want us to practice using an appropriate window. Negative 16 x squared plus 96. Okay, Time can't be negative. So I'm going to put 0. I'm actually going to try just leaving the x at 5 and see if it hits the ground by then. And how high up did this thing get dropped from? So we need it to go up to like 100 at least, right? Because it was just dropped. It should be coming straight down. Now, you don't have to have negative x value. I just kind of like it because now when I do trace, nothing's cut off down there. On the older ones, it used to right over the top of that. But you're welcome to just do 0 to 200. All right, we need to figure out where it hits the ground. What are we trying to find then? The 0. And it looks to me like it's somewhere between 2 and 3 seconds, do you think? So I'm going to type 2 for my left bound and 3 for my right bound. And I got 2.449. Any questions? I use 0 to 5 and 0 to 100. Was that right? For my X and Y windows. All right, guys, the homework is on 9A. You only need to do the ones that are circled on 9A, okay? Not 9B. There's some more ugly word problems we're going to get to tomorrow before we take the quiz, because the quiz is just on complex numbers. All right, I have the review open here. What would you like? Nobody's going to foil on numbers 1 or 2, right? Just adding like terms. 3 or 4, you got to write it out. Everybody good with that? You have to foil out 3 minus 5i times 3 minus 5i. There's no shortcuts. And if we get an I squared, we have to remember to trade it for a -1. Okay, 5, 6, which one? Anybody? Let me do 6. What is the conjugate of the denominator? Yes, you have to change the middle sign down here. So it is 3 plus 5i. And you do that to the top and the bottom. Now, I'm really nervous about those of you who can't distribute without writing a little box. Okay? You're taking this 6 and you're distributing to both of these numbers back here. So 6 times 3 is 18, and 6 times 5i is 30i. And then you're taking this 10 and distributing to both of those things back there. So 10i times 3 is 30i, and 10i times 5i is a positive 50i squared, which will become what? Yes, 50 times -1 will be a -50. Right? In the denominator, you're distributing this 3 out front to both of those. So you get a 9 and a 15i. Then you're distributing the -5i to both of those back there. So you get a -15i and a -25i squared. Most common mistake is just a sign mistake somewhere. -25 times -1 would be plus 25. So in the numerator, I have -32 plus 60i, I think. Someone check me. Is that right? In the denominator, these canceled out, so I end up with 34. Now, A plus BI form means you separate them and reduce. So I got -16/17 plus 30/17 I. I wouldn't care if it was all one fraction, but it does have to be reduced correctly. Feel better on those kind? Okay. Pick one of these from the bottom. 6, 7, 9, or 10. Or 7, 8, 9, or 10. Don't pick 8 because I don't think it reduces. But the rest of them reduce, so it's good practice. Which one? 7, 9, or 10? 9? Okay. Number 9. A is 6, B is 7, and C is 10. That's 7. Thank you. 9. A is 9, B is negative 10, and C is 11. This is a good choice because B is negative. If we do, it's quite likely that they're going to have imaginary answers. That's why we're doing complex numbers. Opposite of B, plus or minus the square root of B squared minus 4 times 9 times 11. I cannot tell you the number of people who wrote that part correctly and then somehow got a wrong answer inside the radical. Over 2 times A would be 2 times 9. Okay, you should be typing this in. I never type the negative because I'm just smarticle like that, and I know it's going to cancel when I square it. So I would have 10 squared. If you type the negative, you got to have the parentheses. And then it was minus 4 times, someone tell me the numbers, I forgot already. 9 times 11. So I have a negative 296. Anybody else get that? Okay. We need to separate that. It's going to have a square root of negative 1. But what else might divide into 296? 4? 4, and then that would be 2 times 37, so it wouldn't go any further. So I think 4 times 74 is going to be our best bet. Okay, so it was negative 296, right? And then it's square root of negative 1, square root of 4, and square root of 74. All over 18. Which is 10 plus or minus. The square root of 4 is 2. Square root of negative 1 is I. I usually write it in that order. It wouldn't be wrong if you wrote I times 2. Square roots of 74. Now, can I reduce? Yes, but I can also reduce wrong, so be real careful. I've been trying to get you to separate them so that you don't do anything silly. You can only reduce if they both reduce. They don't have to both reduce the same if you separate them. 2 goes into all of those things. You could have left it 1 fraction. 5/9 plus or minus 1 I over 18 times the square root of 74. Did anybody else get that? I have a key somewhere so I don't make a silly mistake, but is that right? It would be 9. Thank you. 2 18ths reduces to 1 9. Yeah, thank you, please. Oh, I hate when I do that, and on the video, no less. 2 18ths reduces to 1 9. All right, all of the answers are on the back. If you want a worked out answer key to check tonight, because sometimes you're just doing these wrong and you can't figure out why, I did it. I worked out and got the answers, so you can take a picture of this up here if you want, okay? I think. Otherwise, on the back, it has just the answers. All right, so everybody's doing the retake on complex numbers tomorrow, no matter how well you did the first time. So be ready. What did I leave off this time that got some of you last time? Yeah, there's not a power of I question.